Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain The Cat Funeral. This movie tells the story of a couple who fall in love at their friend's wedding. However, they decide to end their relationship due to many differences and misunderstandings. A year after their breakup, they meet again at their cat's funeral. Will a love story that has ended find a new beginning? Let's find out in The Cat Funeral. The Cat Funeral tells the story of a couple, Dong-hoon and Jae-hee, who decide to take care of a stray cat together. When their romance ended, Dong-hoon took care of the cat alone. However, a year has passed. After the cat died, Dong-hoon decides to meet his ex-girlfriend to report the death of their beloved cat and intends to bury its ashes on an island they had visited together. The film then shows Dong-hoon and Jae-hee on a ship heading to an island where they are involved in a conversation about first love. Jae-hee expresses her desire to live with Dong-hoon, and he doesn't seem to mind his girlfriend's wishes. Even though he only works as an indie musician, Dong-hoon is determined to work harder so that he can meet the needs of himself and Jae-hee's life. The scene then switches to the present, where Dong-hoon sits alone in a cafe, waiting for Jae-hee to arrive. Even though they had a love affair a year ago, the two of them seemed awkward with each other when they met again as an ex-lover. Dong-hoon then excuses himself for a moment, about to go to the toilet. Meanwhile, Jae-hee sits there, reminiscing about her first meeting with Dong-hoon at a wedding reception. At that time, Dong-hoon appeared as a singer at the wedding reception, and Jae-hee was very impressed by his melodious voice. They then met when they were both about to take food. Stunned by Jae-hee's beauty, Dong-hoon tries to approach her. However, Jae-hee responded coldly. When Jae-hee was on her way home, she suddenly heard the sound of a little cat whimpering. Turning back to the present, Dong-hoon and Jae-hee leave the cafe and walk together while discussing Gurium, their beloved cat. Jae-hee asks Dong-hoon when he will bury the cat. Dong-hoon replies he'll bury him today after Jae-hee says goodbye. Dong-hoon then invites Jae-hee to his house, where she sees that the cupboard she once bought is not in Dong-hoon's room. In a nonchalant tone, Dong-hoon says he's already sold it. Jae-hee can only be silent and think back to when they were still dating and living at his house. At that time, Jae-hee bought a cupboard from her first salary and asked Dong-hoon to assemble it while going to the market to buy groceries. After that, Dong-hoon and Jae-hee are seen eating together on the balcony of Dong-hoon's house and suddenly hear the sound of a cat. When the lovers go to bed that night, Jae-hee hears the cat's voice again and asks her boyfriend if she can keep a cat. Dong-hoon immediately rejected his girlfriend's wishes. The following day, Jae-hee finds a little cat in front of the house and decides to take care of it. Even though Dong-hoon had rejected the little cat's presence in his house, Jae-hee kept persuading her boyfriend until he finally relented and allowed her to keep the cat. Jae-hee names him Gurium, which means cloud, because back then the clouds were very beautiful in the sky. The scene switches back to the present, where Dong-hoon and Jae-hee are getting ready to bury the urn containing Gurium's ashes somewhere. Dong-hoon tells Jae-hee that he will bury Gurium somewhere far away. The two then boarded the train and sat a little apart without exchanging much of a word. On the way, Jae-hee's cell phone vibrates because someone called her, but she doesn't pick up the phone in front of Dong-hoon. When they arrive at the station, Jae-hee takes a quick farewell to the toilet. But actually, she called someone. On the other hand, Dong-hoon, who was waiting for Jae-hee, was surprised by the presence of his friend, who greeted him at the station and asked how he was. Not long after, Jae-hee comes and walks over to them, then asks the man about his wife. It turns out that Dong-hoon's friend is the groom whose wedding reception was also attended by Jae-hee. However, before the man could answer Jae-hee's question, suddenly a woman came pushing the stroller and revealed that they were divorced. Because the former couple seemed to be getting into an argument, Jae-hee and Dong-hoon rushed out of there. Outside the station, Jae-hee apologizes to Dong-hoon for not accompanying him to bury Gurium because she has to go somewhere. With a pitiful smile, Dong-hoon lets Jae-hee go. While at the station and about to head home, Jae-hee receives a message from Dong-hoon thanking her for coming all the way to see him. Meanwhile, Dong-hoon, who is already on the ship, seems to be enjoying the beautiful view of the wide sea. However, suddenly Jae-hee appeared in front of him. Apparently she didn't go away and wanted to stay with him in burying Gurium they loved so much. Dong-hoon then gives Jae-hee snacks during their trip on the boat, which Jae-hee turns out to also bring some snacks and gives them to Dong-hoon. The two of them enjoyed the trip while looking at the birds flying above them, which reminded them of the past when the two were still in love. Dong-hoon and Jae-hee boarded a ship headed to an island at that time. After getting off the ship, they took a walk on the beach, went to many tourist spots, and headed to a simple diner for lunch. Jae-hee then asks about Dong-hoon's first love, and he says that his first love was music. Since Dong-hoon's first love was not human, Jae-hee finds it quite cute and adorable. Jae-hee, a cartoonist, then draws their faces on the diner wall before leaving. After leaving the diner, Jae-hee spots a barbershop and asks Dong-hoon to cut his hair there. Even though he had refused, Dong-hoon finally complied with Jae-hee's wishes. However, since Dong-hoon spends a fair amount of time at the barbershop, they miss the boat that will take them off the island. Dong-hoon offers to let them stay the night on the island, but Jae-hee refuses. Since the ship's departure was delayed due to bad weather, Jae-hee looks happy because it means they don't miss the boat to go home. Turning to the present, Dong-hoon and Jae-hee finally arrive at the island and intend to eat before continuing their journey. While stopping at a diner, Dong-hoon meets his childhood friend, a woman named Yoon Kyung. Since they haven't seen each other for a long time, Yoon Kyung invites Dong-hoon and Jae-hee to have lunch together. While eating together, Yoon Kyung asks about Jae-hee and Dong-hoon's relationship, to which Jae-hee later says that she is Dong-hoon's former first love. Hearing this, Yoon Kyung laughed and told Jae-hee that she was Dong-hoon's first love. After eating, Yoon Kyung says goodbye to Dong-hoon and Jae-hee, where Jae-hee finally finds out that Dong-hoon has found a job elsewhere and has quit being a musician. Yoon Kyung said it was a pity because she really liked Dong-hoon's songs. After Yoon Kyung leaves, Jae-hee asks Dong-hoon why he stopped playing music. But Dong-hoon doesn't respond. Before they left the diner, Jae-hee glanced at the painting she had drawn on the diner wall a year ago. While continuing the journey on the bus, the scene switches to the past, where at that time Jae-hee was seen looking at an adorable cat from outside the pet shop. Not long after, a man named Hyun Seok came out of the pet shop and saw Jae-hee, who didn't realize that he was staring at her meaningfully before leaving. After that, Jae-hee came to a cafe where Dong-hoon performed a song in front of many people. She then sat in the front to encourage her boyfriend. On the other hand, Hyun Seok is also there and silently looks at Jae-hee from a distance with a smile. One day, Jae-hee takes the initiative to design a box cover for Dong-hoon's demo CD. She then goes to a record company and meets Hyun Seok, who turns out to be a music producer. Hyun Seok looks impressed by the cover design made by Jae-hee. After that, Dong-hoon gets word that a music producer named Hyun Seok is interested in his songs and plans to work with him. The next day, before seeing Hyun Seok, Jae-hee cheers on her boyfriend and wishes him the best. However, Dong-hoon is surprised when Hyun Seok instead asks about Jae-hee and seems interested in her. Dong-hoon immediately tells the man that Jae-hee is his girlfriend. Arriving home, Dong-hoon then vents his frustration on Gurium because he feels very jealous when other men try to get close to his girlfriend. Turning to the present, when she got off the bus, Jae-hee apparently forgot to bring Gurium's urn of ashes. They rush to catch up with the bus they were on earlier, but when they catch up and check all the seats, they don't find Gurium's urn of ashes anywhere. After that, Dong-hoon asks Jae-hee to board the ship and return to Seoul. But it suddenly made Jae-hee annoyed and left him. Turning to the past, Dong-hoon looks confused because Gurium keeps meowing for food while the cat food stock in his house is running out. Dong-hoon then calls someone and asks about continuing his music album contract, but he doesn't get any explanation. On the other hand, Dong-hoon has to work hard to support his life with Jae-hee and Gurium. Meanwhile elsewhere, Jae-hee is seen having dinner with Hyun Seok, where he informs her that he recommended Jae-hee to a friend because she is a talented artist. Not only that, but Hyun Seok also informed that Dong-hoon's album release schedule was postponed because the record company took his age into account. After shopping for household needs at the supermarket and about to go home, Dong-hoon sees Jae-hee being driven home by Hyun Seok in a luxury car. Dong-hoon immediately felt jealous and didn't want to go home after seeing his girlfriend with another man. He turns out to be drinking and comes home a little drunk. Dong-hoon ignores Jae-hee when she asks him something and goes straight to Gurium to feed him. However, Gurium's bowl turns out to be filled with food and there are quite a few ingredients in the kitchen that Jae-hee has bought. Dong-hoon feels even more irritated. Knowing her boyfriend is upset, Jae-hee tries to persuade Dong-hoon with his favorite musician with concert tickets. However, their relationship after that grew tenuous and they became often quarrelsome. Back to the present day. Jae-hee, who was waiting for the ship to arrive at the dock, met an old woman who was carrying an urn of Gurium's ashes. Jae-hee tries to persuade the old woman to return the urn to her. However, the old woman refuses and instead tells her to sing to cheer her up to take the urn back. Since Jae-hee is not good at singing, the old woman looks displeased until in the end, Dong-hoon comes and sings a song for the old woman. Because of Dong-hoon's melodious voice, the old woman seemed to be so absorbed in the song that she fell asleep. Jae-hee and Dong-hoon then took the old woman to the police station, and not long after, her grandson finally came to pick up her senile grandmother. After that, Jae-hee and Dong-hoon hear an announcement at the port that the ship's departure schedule has been postponed due to bad weather. The two of them decided to stay one night. The scene then turns to the past. It appears Jae-hee and Dong-hoon are drinking with their friends. But Dong-hoon looks not excited and only drinks a little. Dong-hoon tells Jae-hee not to drink too much, but Jae-hee snaps at him, so he walks away. Jae-hee then chases after him, and they hug again. Back to the present. Jae-hee and Dong-hoon then head to an inn, where Dong-hoon invites Jae-hee to have a drink and she agrees. While Jae-hee was in the bathroom, her cell phone that was on the table near the bathroom suddenly rang and Dong-hoon, who was there, grabbed it. After seeing something on Jae-hee's screen, Dong-hoon put the phone down again. Not long after, Jae-hee came out of the bathroom. Dong-hoon tells her he's not drinking and wants to go to sleep because he's tired, then leaves, leaving Jae-hee confused by his attitude. Back to the past. After taking Gurium to the veterinary clinic because the cat had digestive problems, Dong-hoon and Jae-hee's relationship grew strained until they finally decided to separate. Jae-hee is very sad and frustrated because her love relationship with Dong-hoon has run aground, then packs her things and leaves Gurium with Dong-hoon. After Jae-hee leaves, Dong-hoon finds the book that Jae-hee left, entitled The Journey to Find Love. The scene turns to the present. After visiting the barbershop, where Dong-hoon shaved his hair a year ago, they continued their journey to a hill. Arriving at the top of the hill, Dong-hoon immediately buries Gurium's urn of ashes and Jae-hee places a flower in their pet's grave. Although their time together was short, Gurium's presence in their midst meant a lot for Dong-hoon and Jae-hee. With sadness and tears in her eyes, Jae-hee and Dong-hoon hug each other, and she also repeatedly apologizes to Dong-hoon for leaving him. While on the bus on the way home, Dong-hoon returns Jae-hee's book A Journey to Love, then gets off the bus. Not long after, Jae-hee catches up with him and asks Dong-hoon not to stop making music because she really likes his music. Hearing this, Dong-hoon just smiled faintly at Jae-hee and gave no response. When Jae-hee is about to leave, Dong-hoon calls her and congratulates her on her marriage. Jae-hee just nodded slowly and smiled as she watched Dong-hoon leave. One of the lessons we can take from this film is never to hide the problems we face from our partners, especially if these problems are related to the relationship we live with our partners. Make it a habit to talk things over with our partners in a good manner so that no misunderstandings might lead to separation, as shown in this film. If Dong-hoon reveals his jealousy, financial problems, and other things to Jae-hee, maybe Jae-hee can better understand what her boyfriend is going through, and they might still be a couple.